What's up, Winnie? Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, peep the hat as well. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to like dive into this because we've been working together for like 8 or 9 months.
Almost a year, basically.
Yeah, basically, which is crazy that we haven't done this yet, but I wanted to wait until we were done the whole project to really like dive in and talk about the whole process. Um,
Right.
because you're for sure like one of, if not the number one superstar client that I've like ever had. So for me, this is really exciting.
I don't know. I
Um,
think Ezekiel's pretty up there.
oh, Ezekiel's definitely up there. Yeah, yeah. We did one of these a couple weeks back.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that.
yeah, so I mean, we can get kind of straight to it, but before I ask you the questions that, we have, like I also wanted to dive into a bit about like where were you before we started working together? Like, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so technically I released my first song in 2021, but I didn't really know anything about how to really solidify who I was as an artist. And so I was kind of just playing around with sounds that I really, really liked. And I had a friend make a beat for me, and then like we have paperwork and everything about how she wanted me to have all the rights and everything. And it was really sweet. And I'm still so thankful for her to this day, because if it wasn't for her making a beat for me, I never would have released a song.
Mm.
But I always wanted to be an artist, but I never thought I had what it took to be an artist, because I'm a
Mm.
really private person. I'm 27 years old, but I don't really know how to use social media that well. I don't really do a lot of social media-y things. And so I almost felt like I was starting backwards,
Mm.
because I knew so many people who were my age, and they were already selling out concerts, and they were already on their like fourth, fifth, sixth album, because they were able to get discovered at like 16, 17 years old. And so they were able to constantly produce and pump out music. And I got really discouraged, because before 2021, I actually was not in the music scene at all for like 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you took a hiatus. Um,
Yeah, because
but
I
you're
felt
still
like I
writing.
wasn't. I never stopped writing music, but I stopped performing.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was that kind of like for you, kind of going into like, I guess last fall? Were you, yeah, I mean, like, were you feeling kind of like you had a song or two produced by, I know another producer, but you weren't really, did you feel like secure? Like what did it kind of feel like last fall?
Last fall was kind of when I decided I really want to actually pursue this, because I was finally in an environment surrounded by people who would actively hear me on. Like, they wouldn't just be realistic about it. Like my spouse, or like my partner, he is one of the best people ever to keep my head sane, because I had asked him multiple times, I'm like, do you think I could make it as an artist? And he's like, do I think you could make it as an artist? Yes. Do I think you're going to be like Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande level? Probably not. But I think you have what it takes to have even if it's small, a dedicated following. And literally him telling me that like two or three times really kind of solidified me doing, okay, let's dive into this.
Yeah. No, I love the way you
I
put
owe a
that.
lot about where I am in my mentality space to him.
Yeah. No, it's great that you have that support system. Because as we know, music is so, it's just up and down, right? It's really being a creative or being an artist, there's a lot of like um mental blocks that you have to go through, creative blocks, like it's really good that you have that. So, yeah, so I think you were kind of like at a point where you said I took a hiatus, you were kind of stuck, and then you were,
I jumped into the cover community. So I got
Okay.
stuck for like 6 years. And then one of
Yeah.
my favorite YouTube channels was like, hey, I'm gonna host a for fun survival show. Here's where you can audition. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw in an audition with a song that I had written myself. And I got in. And so I started participating that way, and we were covering K-pop songs and everything like that. And then I kind of just kept being in the K-pop cover community from like 2019 to so that survival show started in like 2019, early 2020, and went on until 2021. And then I released my first song in October of 2021. And then I kind of just stayed in a cover community. I was comfortable there. I had friends again, finally, and I had people I felt actually kind of understood
Hmm.
my love for music, just even if it was just on a surface level.
Yeah. And
And
so,
then at the end of 2022, I got into beat making and I tried to make some beats. They were kind of really amateurish and really simple. And then I released Oil and Fire at the end of 2023.
yeah. So, what was that transition like from going to being just not just a cover artist, but doing covers to like producing your own original music?
That was really exciting and scary at the same time
Mm.
because I was like, I don't know if I have what it takes to do this because I don't play instruments. The only instrument I play is my voice, and that's the only instrument I'm fluent in. I know enough about a piano to be able to identify keys, like to be able to play scales and identify the keys. I don't remember how the scales go or anything, but I can play the melodies that I hear on a keyboard. And then I can play some percussion instruments enough to get a rhythm that I like, but I don't own really any of those instruments. So what I did would be I would take a piano app on my phone and I would record all the notes that I was singing. And then I would go into Google and type in, okay, what key has these sharps in it?
Oh, I got you. Okay. So music theory knowledge is not the
I started going in with very limited theory knowledge. I
Mm.
knew I knew how to identify major and minor chords. I did not know what step in the chord progressions they would be. I'm not nearly as versed in it like Flameus is,
Mm.
or like a lot of my musical theater, like a lot of my musical majoring buddies from my university.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was really weird when, you were the one kid who didn't study music as in your friend group, but yet you knew a lot about it. And they would always
Yeah.
ask me, sorry about that. They would always ask me, why aren't you a music major?
Yeah.
And it was because I was scared that I wouldn't love it anymore.
Mm. Yeah, I get that. So I guess kind of transitioning into us working together, what for you, I guess I have actually another like I will go back to these questions, but I have one other question, which is like what made you want to work together?
I knew I couldn't do it alone
Mm.
because I tried doing Oil and Fire, and as much as I love it, and I love learning about all of these different ways to interpret things and everything, I knew that I couldn't do everything. And I was like, I would be able to make music so much faster, so much better if I had at least one other person I could work with. Because I know how to mix myself decently enough to not sound like crap.
Yeah.
So I decided I need somebody that I can trust to take what I'm throwing at them and make magic out of it with instruments.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we did. So I guess for you, like what has been the best result from working together?
Actually feeling confident in my music
Mm. Okay.
because I can throw you and your team, like you and Owen, the audio mixer. I can throw you guys an example of a sound, or I can show a voice note to you guys of like, I'm looking for something that kind of sounds like this, and then you guys just make it happen.
Hmm.
It's really interesting, exciting, and almost surreal to have to be able to explain myself and actually have people understand what I'm looking for.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's that's a really, I guess, like raw answer. Um, was there kind of a specific feature that you like the most about working together?
The fact that I feel like we're breaking the norms of the music industry.
Yeah.
I've always been a person who wants to. I guess this actually answers another your first question, which is I prefer to work with smaller people to show that you don't need to have a big following to have worthy talent.
Mm. Yeah. I like that. I
So
like what you said about breaking the industry. I love
yeah,
that because that's my goal.
because music, believe it or not, people may not believe this, but the music industry is pretty male dominated.
Yeah.
On the back end of things, it's still very male dominated.
Hmm.
Even if a lot of artists are most like, even if a lot of what you hear nowadays is mostly female artists,
Hmm.
like I was looking at the Country Music Awards, and there was only two females nominated for all of the categories.
Wow.
The
That's
rest of them,
surprising.
people don't look at that. They don't look at those statistics, and I was like, I don't even know if there's any non-binary people on
Hmm.
here. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to make sure that if I was going to sign on with somebody, whether that be a label, even though I love the autonomy of being an independent artist, whoever I decided to work with needed to be progressive enough to understand and respect various identities in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so it's a lot
Um,
easier to do that with a younger person who's more my age than it is to somebody who's older than me.
hmm. Yeah. Um, and just I guess also being like open-minded, right? Because a lot of people, the older they get, the more closed-minded they get. But stuck in their ways they
Yes.
are. Yeah.
To quote somebody from NaNoWriMo, just because you've been doing it for decades does not mean that you are the only person doing it right.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. So in terms of like we've talked about a lot of good stuff. But I'm also curious, like it, if there was an obstacle that would have prevented us from working together, like what would that be?
I'm not entirely sure, but there were times where I was getting frustrated with you because you would stop communicating.
Mm,
Um, where it's like we would make plans and then all of a sudden I get like crickets when I'm trying to ask questions or trying to be like, hey, where are you? Why are you not here? And then I would get a response from you like 2 days later after missing the meeting or something.
hmm.
And it's like if you're feeling I kept telling you, if you're feeling burnt out, if you need to move something out, just tell me the day before and I'll be fine.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally get that. That was like when I was burnt out and I just didn't accept
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. Um, for sure.
But it's
And I
like if
feel
you
like,
had started out that way
hmm.
and like started trying to be like it started this like business relationship while you were really burnt out, if I hadn't known beforehand how passionate and determined you were about the art that you make, I probably would have stepped back if I
Hmm.
didn't know that beforehand.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. And I would have like respected that because I wasn't showing up like the way that I wanted to, right? Um,
Right.
so yeah. I mean, that kind of also answers my next question, but if there was like one thing that would improve my service, like what would that be?
Well, I would probably just say, being more communicative because you are really authentic. You are really honest when you do communicate. It's just learning to communicate to have a boundary. And you are getting better at it, at least with me. I don't know about any other clients you have, but you are getting better at it with me where it's like, hey, I know we planned on doing this on this day, but I realized I double booked, or I realized that I forgot to do something and I need to reschedule it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think I'm getting better at it, I think. Um uh because particularly I mean with you, you're also very understanding, so I feel very comfortable telling you like if I have to reschedule something like and it's kind of last minute, like it's the day of and I forgot about something or I double booked. Um
Yeah.
so
Because I mean, I
uh
even did that with you today. I was like, hey, I just realized I accidentally double booked. Can we bump this up an hour?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and like I think we're both pretty flexible like with that when communicated like in advance, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's a really good point. I guess anything else that you'd like to add, I guess, for right? Yeah, anything you'd like to add?
um, I'm not exceptionally sure. I mean, I've never worked on a project this big all at once before. I know that when I was first talking to you about it and the fact that like I was really surprised that you were so willing to work with songs that you didn't even create.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
like the two tracks that you didn't make on the album. I was like, I was really surprised that you were going to offer to have your team like mix and master them for the sake of coherency.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted the whole project to sound
Cohesive,
cohesive.
cohesiveness, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's yeah, I guess it kind of goes back to what you said. I mean, I really just care about the art that we make. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. But
And
yes,
like you always make sure that it is a collaborative effort, even if it's like, ultimately like me as the artist, the one releasing it, you want to make sure that even if you want to make sure because you're part of the process that it gets the love it deserves.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I love the way you phrase that. So, I mean, just to close it off, like, would you recommend Beats by Anch?
Oh, 100%. And the reason why is, as I said before, is I prefer to support people who are smaller, as well as people I feel could really impact the industry in a great way. So, like Flameus, who I mentioned before, he impacts the industry in a really interesting and creative way without feeling like he's imposing.
Mm-hmm.
And you do the same thing too. And because you're very young and you're still in a state of being able to be really malleable and really flexible, it's really nice to be able to work with somebody who wants to understand and who isn't just like, oh, well, I've worked with X amount of people before and this is how we always do it.
Yeah.
Even if, even if you have all of this experience, you're still willing to learn, you're still willing to grow, you're still willing to, if there's a conflict, you're willing to talk it out and understand and figure out, like, okay, did I do something wrong? Is it something that you're just trying to work through? Or where is this disconnect happening? So that way we can make a bridge and move past it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like my new thing is just like moving forward. Like, I don't want to be stuck or like stagnant in anything. And I also don't want to, well, I'd like working with you. So I don't want one like small thing to be a reason that we don't work together in the future or whatever. Because like, to me, and I think
Right.
it's the same for you, it's like a long-term relationship, working relationship. So like, um, yeah, I guess that's a good way to close it off. I appreciate everything that you said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it just reminded me of like how when we first had our like consultation call, basically, you were talking about how primarily you were working with like hip hop artists and
Mhm.
rappers, and that I wasn't the first, but I was the first in a long time who was more of a pop artist.
Yeah.
And so you were also nervous about the partnership
Mhm.
because you weren't sure how it was going to go because the other person was not ideal.
Yeah. That was my like worst experience ever. So but it was less like what one thing I think that we both did well, getting this is like we both had bad experiences with other collaborators, but we didn't like bring
Right.
that into this, if that makes sense.
I
Like
mean,
we
we
didn't,
definitely mentioned it, but we wanted to make the experience better.
yeah, when we learned from it though, we didn't like take it as baggage. Like, oh,
Right.
I've had this bad experience, so I'm not gonna work with you kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and that's a good thing that I want people to know about you is that even if you have a bad experience or you have a conflict, you don't want to get in the way of both you and your client or your partner in the music to suffer for it.
Yeah. Definitely. I think at the end of the day, the music is the most important thing to me. Like the music that we make.
Yeah.
So, um,
Be- because at the end of the day, it's like, this is your child. You need to take care of the child. And
I love
so
that.
if,
I love how serious we are.
yeah, I mean, I treat my music like my baby, okay?
I
Like
know.
I will tell my partner to leave the room so that way I can record. I'm noisy.
No, I love that. So, I mean, thank you so much for chatting with me today. Thank you for all like the kind things that you said and just for being honest and about your story as well. So, um, yeah, I mean, thank you. Is it cool if I put a snippet of Selfish at the end of this?
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay, sweet.
And
Awesome.
I'm super excited. I don't know when you're going to be releasing this informational, like this little documentary that we just made, but um if it comes out before the middle of October, my next release is coming out on October, hopefully October 17th.
Ooh, yes. And if we'll have it, I'll put a pre-save link in the description.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to release it. It's my 3rd year anniversary release. This will be my
Yes.
3rd year as an independent artist, and so I wanted to celebrate it with the music video of the very first song that I ever created that I didn't get to make until this year. So
Well,
I'm really excited.
yeah, I'm excited too. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. And yeah, I'll make sure to put that stuff in the description and I'll put a snippet of Selfish right after this.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, and Winnie out.
Hey, let's go.